Good music lives here.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Anything wrong, I'm infatuated with the music. Anything wrong, cause I'm in love with the music. Anything wrong, cause I'm obsessed with the music. If you won't speak, hold your peace. I gotta confess, I love the jukebox. Anything wrong, I'm infatuated with the music. Anything wrong, cause I'm in love with the music.
Turn up your radio. Turn up your radio.
Sending that tip over, Jack. Sending that tip over, baby. Sending that. Chiringanyona ino kashala munai. Na wapono rubiro na wapashilai. Chirai lai. Chirai.
Good music lives here.
Voice of the People, Monday to Friday from 8:45 to 8:30 a.m. Great morning conversations start here.
This is Voice of the People right here on the Power Breakfast on 91.3. You can also catch us live on Beat TV, that is channel 92 on Topstar. And you can also stream us live via our social media platform, that is Power FM Zambia. Now, the Advocates for Democratic Governance Foundation, ADIC, has urged civil society to come together and remain alert concerning the NGO amendment bill that is of 2025. Now, while endorsing the government initiative, that is to update the 2009 NGO Act, the foundation has called for revision of certain restrictive clauses and stressed the need to safeguard fundamental freedoms, that is ahead of the 2026 elections. We'll be heading to the polls next year. Now, today on Voice of the People, we welcome ADIC Executive Director Mr. Gideon Musonda, who will engage us more on the NGO Amendment Bill of 2025 and, of course, the upcoming Lumezi parliamentary by-election, the constitutional amendments, and other key national matters that we need to discuss right here on Voice of the People. So we will open the phone lines as the show goes on. That is on 0979-192-485 or 0955-997-997. Good morning, Mr. Msonda. How are you doing?
Good morning, Fortless. I'm doing well. And good morning to the listeners and viewers out there.
Indeed. Now, we'll start maybe asking you if you can explain more what ADIC is.
Okay, thank you very much for giving us this platform. ADIC, in full, is Advocates for Democratic Governance Foundation. So this is an organization that was established by governance and human rights, activists who have, a long experience in advocating, for good governance, democracy, but also with full participation in electoral, matters. Yeah, and most of the members, have that history and the experience, for the past, 17 years or so. The organization was established last year, yeah, but, the membership, have, that experience. We are not new, to the sector. Yeah, because, we've been in this, having served in various organizations and various capacities. Yeah, so it's rich in terms of experience, even though, it was registered last year. And our mandate, really, is to promote and protect democracy and human rights. And we do this, through effective advocacy, on legal, and legislative reforms. But we also, go further in ensuring that we monitor and raise awareness on electoral process. Yeah, we also do that by way of, conducting institutional elections, such as board. If the institution here, want to have, board elections, or any other institutional elections, because of that background that we have and our expertise in terms of being non-partisan, we have positioned ourselves to handle, in terms of conducting the elections, so that we promote integrity of the electoral process within institutions. But we also, build capacity, for various, stakeholders. This may be at the level of institutions, and that is within, issues of civic, engagement, but also capacity to, contribute effectively in terms of, participation in governance. So away from that, having highlighted the main issues that we deal with, in terms of promotion of human rights, these are aligned to our key areas, of operations. It should be on governance and democracy.
Just to jump on a question, since you did say that you formed the organization just last year.
Yes.
So with regards to governance issues, what have you seen change so far in the space of last year and this year?
Interesting. There has been, a lot of movements, especially from electoral stakeholders. We've seen that government is in high gear in ensuring that they do a lot of legislative changes. And this stems from also, the main constitution, but other pieces of legislation, such as the move on, on government, to enact laws that regulate the cyberspace. The government also, went further in terms of, proposing bills, that should also contribute, to the governance, of our country. As we speak now, there is also constitutional, amendment that
bill,
is, sitting, before Parliament. And also there is also a bill, on NGO, that intends to repress the NGO Act, of 2009. So we have seen that there has been a mixture, of pieces of registration that government have, introduced. But on others, they've hesitated to move. Like, for example, there has been a call, for a government to make amendments, but also ensure that there is a clear change, of how stakeholders conducts themselves, in the political scene, in terms of ensuring that the electoral process, is credible. Public Order Act has been, a long pending issue. But it's unfortunate that government has not moved, so much. As of 2023, in fact, going into 2024, there was that serious conversation, to change, Public Order Act. But unfortunately, the process has stalled on that one. Yeah. So what we have seen is that there is that, hype, on government to change, the laws, and to the larger extent, the proposed laws are not really meant to expand the civic space. In our view, proposed laws have come with provisions that will shrink the political and civic space.
Let's talk about the NGO Amendment Bill of 2025. Can you share with us what the bill entails and maybe the key changes it is introducing and why these changes are really important?
Thank you very much for that question. But allow me first to start with the program that or interventions that we are doing as ADEC on this legislative process. Yeah. So the NGO bill intends to replace, in fact, repeal and replace the NGO Act of 2009. You may be aware that this law, which is a current law, is operational. It was objected, it was rejected by so many stakeholders that included the NGO sector. The law was restrictive. The law was meant to shrink the space of NGOs, such that around 2012, going into 2013, somewhere there were a lot of litigations on the on the law, because despite the concerns stakeholders had on the bad provision, government proceeded to implement them. So the law was bad. It was not friendly for our sector. And so there has been that advocacy to ensure that the law is repressed with a better law that will go against what is in the current law, that will address the issues that we've raised that sits in the current law.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, the bill that has been proposed, it has just repeated almost the same issues that we have rejected, and it has not addressed so many issues that we want, be addressed. Now, the intervention that we are doing as our organization is to interrogate, this bill, further. So what we did recently was to hold a stakeholders engagement where we called the CSOs, so that we can analyze the bill, interrogate it further, and then make significant changes that will make a difference for purposes of ensuring that the environment in which we operate is better, and it's also supportive, for NGOs to do their work for the goodness of the citizens.
Sorry to cut you off short, Mr. Msonda. You did say that there is a repetitive action that has been done with the bill itself.
Yes.
And there are certain things that were in the law that were passed that were hindering NGOs.
Yes.
So maybe you can just highlight those things.
Okay. Yeah. So in the current law, there are provisions to do with control, such as establishment of the board that has got the biased numbers of members who sit, but also make decisions on the operations of the NGOs. So that provision, we rejected it because of excessive powers that was given to that board, such that the representation from non-state actors, it was less, and it was having more powers that concentrated about controlling the sector rather than playing the facilitatory role, that would also improve, the operations of the sector. Now, we wanted to run away from the issue of excessive powers that limits the operations of the NGOs. Now, when you consider the current provisions that are sitting in here, even if the board has been, scrapped off, but you consider introductions of, an inspector, you also consider the roles that are being, played by the department, of registrar in terms of, the mandatory registration, which is against the spirit of the Constitution that allows for freedom of association, which means I have the freedom as an individual or as an organization to associate with whichever
organization you so please.
The organization is so pleased, but also registration, authority. So, what we are saying is this: the provisions that are sitting in the NGO bill, they have provided for licensing, mandatory licensing. And there are provisions that are speaking to if the NGO or any setup that are within the definition of the NGO have not been registered, then they should not proceed to execute their mandate.
Isn't that a good thing?
No. When you look at the NGO definition, it considers the registered and unregistered. And the terms that are used there, incorporated and unincorporated. Yes. So, why having that broader definition in the beginning, was for purposes of expanding and giving that freedom of NGOs, not only those that are registered, but those communities that also mobilize themselves to offer the service that foster the development. Now, when you consider those provisions that are providing for mandatory registration, that are providing for mandatory licensing, one, they are inconsistent with the definition that has allowed organized groups to operate, whether they are registered or not, whether they are incorporated or not. So, the provisions that are sitting in there, and when you follow, the requirement for registration and other details, it's not sitting well. It's to to the larger extent, restrictive.
Okay, sorry to cut you off short again. So now, let's say as an NGO,
Yes.
you are lobbying for funds.
Yes.
And like you said, you have an end goal, of course, to make sure that the community benefits at the end of the day. Now, how are people who would want to jump on board and be part of that cause, how are they going to know that the NGO is not going to misappropriate or mismanage those funds if it's not registered to the government?
Well, if the NGO is not registered with government, the definition of the NGO itself, it provides for organized communities who can push, a developmental agenda. And that is in line with what the Constitution also provides in terms of freedom of association. Now, for those that are incorporated, the registered one, there are obligations that we follow. If you are registered with PACLA, if you are registered with the registrar of societies, there are rules and regulations to follow. And they are clearly outlined. If you are to, for example, abuse donors' funds, there are other laws that are applicable. It's a criminal offense. So, we wouldn't want to have laws that are over-regulating the sector, because the registration authorities, they do have, conditions, the rules and regulations, which that organization should abide by. Yes. So we are not seeing it necessary that we push further to be again regulated under another, registration, authority. One, it will also have, that, burden on us in terms of what to report to. For example, if we are registered as a company, limited by guarantee, which also provides for that, platform for NGOs operation, the requirements that are there should be sufficient and be able to interact with whatever government system. So it will not be necessary that we repeat whatever we submit there with extra regulation on the other, government arm. So our core is to have the system that can interact, but also, if there is any obligation to the law, those laws, they are sufficient. If you do the criminal offense, like abuse of donors' funds, there are penalties, to that. But even to people who funds, these monies, there are also sanctions, that are there if you abrogate or if you abuse, their funds. Yeah. So criminal offense is criminal offense. So we have enough laws that can deal with anything that is criminal. Yeah, but to the larger extent, we are looking for a law that will be, friendly, to us in terms of operations, and not more about control, and also ensuring that there is over-regulation. I think that will be, more or less shrinking our civic space.
All right. This is Voice of the People right here on the Power Breakfast on 91.3. You can catch us live on Bits TV on channel 92 on Topstar, or you can catch us live via our Facebook social media platform that is on our Facebook page, Power FM Zambia. The phone lines are open. The number is 0979 192 485 or 0955 997 997. Now, Mr. Msonda, given the approach the approaching 2026 elections we only have a few months to go. What specific challenges do you anticipate for NGOs, and how can they prepare?
Yeah, I think one thing is that it's extremely important to study the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Government has got, not only this government, most of the governments have got that tendency to somehow restrict the civic space
Mm-hmm.
for NGOs when you are approaching to elections. So, assessing this environment where so many laws have been, proposed, I think it's important that the NGO sectors, wake up and also get united, push back on any laws that are restricting the operations of the NGOs. Because if that is done, it's a country that will suffer. For us to offer our service effectively, we need an enabling law that will promote our operations. Unfortunately, when you look at the pieces of legislation that have been tabled, for example,
Mm-hmm.
not only this NGO bill, laws that have been enacted, such as Cyber Security and Cyber Crime Act, all those laws, to the larger extent, they are shrinking the civic space.
Let's talk about the cyber crimes bill, which consists of the cyber crimes.
It's now a law.
The
Yes.
law, pardon me, yes. Both the laws, which is the cyber crimes and the cyber security
Indeed.
law. What's your take on that? What's your stance as ADIC?
Yeah, so we pushed back on the laws because we believed that the laws were more biased on over-regulating, if you like, the civic space, than promotion and protection, of that online space. If you saw, our engagements even prior to the enactment of those laws, we were very clear on what we wanted to see, in the law. The first thing was about protecting the citizens. Yes, it's important that we protect the citizens against the abuse. Now, in doing that protection, we need to ensure that the laws that are enacted facilitate for the enjoyments of human rights. Now, those laws have a chilling effect on the freedom of expression.
Are you saying it is infringing human rights?
Yes.
In what capacity?
For example, invasion on the privacy, because it's giving state those powers to invade in your private at any time. Safeguards are not very adequate to protect that invasion. And I'm talking about surveillance. Not only that, it's also the law itself. It's having that chilling effect on your operations. For you as journalists, the issue of disclosure of information that may be termed as critical.
Isn't this now a way for people to be accountable enough to maybe report or say facts? If it's not a fact, then it's a crime.
No, there's no harm in stating the fact. There's no harm in stating the fact. Now, here is a direct example. For you as a professional journalist, you have, I think, in your ethical practices where if I give you information,
Mm-hmm.
I do the whistleblowing act. And then we agree that that information should be kept as confidential in terms of the source.
You are anonymous.
I'm anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
If those officers operating under that law comes to you and you refuse to disclose that information, you can that will be considered a criminal offense. So it's taking away those freedoms and the aspect of you doing that investigative journalism.
If what you're reporting are facts, why should they arrest you in the first place? If you give me information and the information you give me,
Mm-hmm.
I verified to say it's correct, because I don't just have to submit it like that.
Yes.
I mean, if I verified that it's correct, so why should they arrest me if it's correct?
Yeah, but such is likely to even be abused. So I'm talking about, I give you information
Mm-hmm.
that may not sit well
Mm-hmm.
with the authority. For example,
But
I
if it-
might be observing
Mm-hmm.
the Corrupt Act. The Corrupt Act, something that is inimical to the development of this nation. I give you the information. What is happening here, it's this and this and this.
I have to verify it then.
Yes. Yeah. You verify it. Yeah. But I'm telling you that, yes, just that act of disclosure or keeping that confidentiality, of the information from the source. By not disclosing that you are getting it from Sonda, yeah, it can land you in problem. That law, gives that, those law enforcement under, those laws, to act in a manner that, can implicate you. Yeah. So what we are saying is that the laws, you can even see when they were enacted and the conversation that is going, online, the effect, has been seen.
Just to clarify on that,
Yes.
the Protection of Whistleblowers Act was actually enacted in 2010.
Yes.
So you are saying that as media practitioners, they are at liberty of being arrested in case and then are not being protected.
Yeah. But when you go to the law, you find a provision that is saying failure to disclose the information that the inspector or the officers may need from you, is a criminal offense. And there are penalties to that. So how is that, harmonized to that whistleblowing? Yeah. So in Zambia, we have laws that are good and bad. You have, this law is providing for exercise of that, freedom, but the other law is taken away. And when it comes to implementation, the implementing officers always, and to the larger extent, they take advantage of those laws to implicate you, and not those laws that gives you, that freedom for you to enjoy.
All right. Now, let's dive into the current constitutional amendment proposals. Well, what's your stance on that?
Well, our stance is that we have rejected this law. This law, the proposed law, in the first instance, we opposed some of the content that were proposed.
Maybe you can just highlight that for us?
Yes. You know that this law has proposed to have the members of parliament go to sit into local government as councillors, to be members of the council. That is compromising on the principle of separation of powers. So, you know that the legislature, parliament, has got that oversight over executive only how they are implementing the project. Local government is an extension of the executive. Local government is an agent of the executive. Now, when you have members of parliament sitting in that local, council, you are compromising the principle of separation of power, and you are compromising on the principle of providing that oversight. So we are opposed, to that. Two, we are opposed for members of parliament to continue staying till a day before election. You stay in office till a day before election. The current constitution provides for dissolution of parliament 90 days before. And one of the things that happens is that you level the playing field. Ministers stop being ministers. The members of parliament become individuals, political players, if you like. And so you bring them to the level of any participating candidates. Now, the proposal now is that the members of parliament should continue to stay in office until a day before the general elections. What are they going to be doing? Now, see the inconsistent with the proposals. The same bill is also talking about these members of parliament, even though they continue to stay in office for those 90 days, parliament should not sit, parliament should not conduct any business. So, what are they going to do? What are they going to be doing in those 90 days? Is it just the interest of just getting the resources?
Okay.
Money? Is money an issue?
Okay, so issues of ministers are allowed to retain their position to up to and during election campaigns unless Parliament is dissolved.
Yes.
That is for 90 days.
Yes.
So,
yes,
what is
that is yes, that is for ministers, and we support that. And there was a court ruling, on on that to provide some clarity.
So what's your argument?
My argument is now the members of Parliament,
MPs,
because the members of Parliament, there is a provision they are pushing in the bill that they should continue to stay in office. Ministers, yes, they will no longer be serving as ministers, but they will continue sitting as members of Parliament.
Okay.
And you will have another. Okay.
Just hold that thought. Hello, Sue to the Power Breakfast. Good morning.
Good morning, Power FM.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
I'm Tatila calling within Nsaka. Good morning, Mr. Msond.
Good morning, Tatila. How are you?
Yeah, good. I think first and foremost, I'd like Mr. Msonda to share the current relationship between the civil society and the Ministry of Justice. Because when you talk about this particular amendment that is going on, I think the first debate was that there was a draft, and then it was that debate grew to an extent that State House made its own statement, Ministry of Justice made its own statement, and the public were confused. And then we have now seen that the Ministry of Justice, I think 2 days ago they were in Northern Province in Kasama, and yesterday they were in Mansa, which is Wapula Province. And as we talk right now, various stakeholders are being engaged. And what I know in the past, some of the activities that I participated in the past, be it in MMD and even the previous PF, all these processes depends on the civil society networking with the Ministry of Justice. What is the current relationship between the civil society and the Ministry of Justice? Are they engaging or not engaging, so that together we can reach consensus? Then finally, don't you think, Mr. Msonda, that the UPND stands out to be in a better position to find a way of how they can engage citizens on the issue to do with constitution amendment, in the sense that they celebrated the defeat of Buten, and maybe they would even find a better way of engaging, because they are standing on a platform where they have learned lessons and they know it better, because they actually been defeated the NDF sittings at Mulungushi. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Tatila, for coming through. Maybe you might just want to comment on what he was talking about, just quickly.
Okay, yeah. So in terms of engagement, with Ministry of Justice, we have not had that effective engagement in the recent past. Initially, when there were pronouncements, of the intention to amend, the Constitution, we organized ourselves as civil society. I think around 2023. Yes. Also, it should be early 2024. Yeah, in which we provided insight on, our take in terms of how, constitution amendments should be undertaken. We had called on, the broader, consultation process. Yeah, we also, called on the ministry to release, the roadmap, so that we can also have an input, in terms of how we can make this process successful. Unfortunately, there was dilly-dallying on the part of government. The information was not availed, not until recently, when that statement was released in Parliament and leading, to this highly contentious debate that we are having. One, we said that the approach that should be undertaken is the one that is bottom-up approach, and not top-bottom approach. The bottom-up approach, it ensures that there is citizens' participation in determining the process, but also ensuring that the content is stemming from them. So, government did not take that route. If anything, they've imposed these provisions. So it's a top-bottom approach that has been undertaken, contrary to the advice that we had, given. So that's why even the content is not, to the larger extent, most of the stakeholders, have issues with. Now, if the content was as a result of consultations, I'm telling you, Fortress, by now we could have had less issues, being argued for. Yeah. So this has been our stance, and in our view, what we are saying is that amending the Constitution isn't bad. Even ourselves, we are calling for that amendment, to be made, because we know that there are faults in our Constitution. Now, the timing is very wrong. This is a wrong timing. One, the environment is toxic in terms of divisions, political divisions in the country. There is too much politicization on everything. And the past experiences has shown that when you are taking such important actions at the wrong time like this, even noble provisions, good provisions, may fail because of the environment. So in our view, what we are saying now is that government should abandon this process and resuscitate this conversation after the elections. Already, it has jumped some of the processes that was even outlined by the minister. Mm-hmm. Remember, when the minister presented the statement in Parliament, the minister was categorically clear that the Electoral Commission of Zambia would guide on the delimitation or the constituents, the numbers, that should sit, that should be added, in terms of expanding, parliamentary seats. Now, the government has proceeded to share the numbers. We even don't know where those, proposed, constituencies will be, without the report from ECZ. Is it done secretly? Has it been submitted to, government? Now, this is a process where things are being done like privately. Now, if there is transparency in the process, what we expect is that government should have released through the ECZ,